I used to explore abandoned places, hospitals, schools, even a theme park once. But this one, the Greystone Medical Facility, stuck with me for all the wrong reasons. It was November 2021. My friend Alex and I drove out to an old psychiatric hospital that had been shut down since the late 90s. It sat behind rusted gates and brush so thick the building was practically hiding. We weren't the first to explore it. You could tell by the graffiti and old beer cans, but most people never made it past the first 2 floors. The upper levels had collapsed staircases, and most of the basement was flooded. That day, we planned to do something different. We'd found an old blueprint online that showed a sealed records wing on the 3rd floor. If it was still intact, it'd be untouched for over 20 years. We got in through a broken loading dock. Inside, it was dead silent except for the occasional clatter of our own footsteps on debris. The place felt off, like it was waiting for us to leave. We climbed a collapsed stairwell, boosted each other over some cracked beams, and eventually reached a hallway completely sealed by a heavy metal door. It looked like someone had welded it shut. But the weird thing, the door wasn't rusted like the rest of the building. The welds looked newer, not fresh, but maybe only a few years old. Like someone had tried to keep something in or out. We pried it open with a crowbar. Inside was pitch black. Just rows of dusty filing cabinets and overturned gurneys. We split up to cover more ground. I took the far end. About 10 minutes in, I pulled open a drawer and saw a single manila folder. Not stacked, just one. It was clean, no dust on it. The name on the tab read, Elias Keene, admitted October 9th, 1995. What caught my eye immediately was the photo paper-clipped to the top. It looked like Alex. I don't mean a slight resemblance. I mean it was him. Same face, same nose, same faint scar under his lip from a skateboard fall when he was 14. But the file said Elias was born in 1973. I laughed at first. I figured Alex was pranking me. I walked back toward the entrance to call him out, but Alex wasn't in the room anymore. I called his name. No answer. I tried calling his phone, but it just rang and rang. The building swallowed the sound. Then I heard it. Footsteps down the hall. Not running, just walking. I followed the sound. It led me to a side office that had a broken observation mirror. Like one-way glass, but shattered inward. Inside, I found another file, this one open on a desk. A medical evaluation. It said, patient exhibits severe dissociation. Frequently claims to be someone else. Believes he is Alex Moore, born in 1996. Refuses to acknowledge admission under real name. Episodes worsening. Subject under suicide watch. That's Alex's full name. But the file was dated October 15th, 1995. A full year before he was even born. I turned around, and Alex was standing in the hallway, pale and shaking. I shoved the folder at him and said, "Very funny." He looked confused. Swore up and down he'd been looking for me for 20 minutes. He hadn't planted anything. He hadn't even seen a file room. I didn't believe him until we tried to find our way back. The corridor we'd used was gone, literally blocked off by a caved-in ceiling we hadn't passed through coming in. We eventually found another way out through the laundry chute, sliding down into a moldy basement. It took hours to escape. Later that night, I tried searching for any records of Elias Keene. Nothing. No birth certificate. No obituary. No social security information. Nothing in any state records, mental health archives, or newspaper mentions. It's like he never existed, but I kept the file. Every photo, every note, every scribbled doctor's comment, all of it is still in my closet. Sometimes, when Alex visits my place, I catch him staring at that photo for way too long. And one time, when I asked what he was thinking, he just said, "What if that really was me before I was born?" I never laughed about that trip again. And I never went back. My girlfriend Nina and I used to photograph abandoned places for fun. Old hotels, train stations, things like that. We liked the thrill, but we were careful. Never forced our way in, never stole anything. In March of 2022, we heard about a long-abandoned rehabilitation center called Pine Haven Restorium, located deep in northern Michigan. It had been shut down since the early 1980s after funding was cut. Locals said the place had a dark history. Patients neglected, strange disappearances, that sort of thing. We assumed that was just part of the legend. But once we got there, something felt different. The building was surrounded by bare woods, the kind that looks dead even in spring. The windows were broken or boarded up, and the whole place seemed to lean slightly, like it was tired of standing. We went in through a broken kitchen door. The air inside was dry, but thick, like it hadn't moved in years. There was furniture overturned in some rooms, patient beds with buckled legs, and vines creeping in through the ceilings. At first, everything went as expected. We got some good shots. Found an old physical therapy room with rusted weights and water-damaged diplomas still hanging on the walls. But in the East Wing, a narrower hallway full of treatment rooms, things started to feel off. Nina was ahead of me, walking slowly, when she suddenly froze. I asked what was wrong. She said, "Something just touched my back." I looked behind her. Nothing there. The hallway was too narrow for anyone to pass without brushing shoulders, and we hadn't seen another soul since we arrived. We laughed it off, but the mood had shifted. A few minutes later, while I was photographing an old examination table, I felt it too. Not a breeze, not a trick of the mind. Fingers, cold, thin fingers, ran across the back of my neck. I spun around, camera in hand, nothing. I called out, trying to sound casual. "If anyone's in here, we're just taking pictures. We'll be out soon." No response. We were about to leave when Nina said, "Wait, look at this." She had found a guest book on a desk in what must have been the front office. A thick, moldy ledger with handwritten names and dates from the 60s and 70s. Most were faded, but the last page looked newer. The ink wasn't even fully bled into the page yet. There, in unmistakable handwriting, were our names. Nina Travers and Logan Bennett, March 15th, 2022. The exact date. I hadn't signed anything, neither had she. I flipped the book over to make sure it wasn't some prank or pre-signed list. It wasn't. Every previous page was filled with decades-old handwriting. I wanted to leave. Nina insisted on staying 5 more minutes. She wanted one last shot of the old nurse's station. I agreed, reluctantly, and turned to walk toward the exit. Then I heard her scream. I ran back, heart racing, expecting her to be hurt or stuck. But she was just standing in the middle of the hallway, staring at her arm. She rolled up her sleeve, and there it was. 3 thin red scratches on her upper arm. Fresh. She said she hadn't felt anything. No pain, no burn, no pressure. She just looked down and saw them. We were done after that. We left without looking back, packed up, and drove 5 hours back to Chicago without saying much. That night, we didn't even look at the photos. But the next morning, Nina showed me something. She'd checked the metadata on one of the pictures she'd taken inside the hallway. The timestamp was normal, 2:23 p.m., but in the very edge of the photo, in a broken mirror on the wall, you could just barely make out a figure standing behind her. Not me, not anyone we knew. No light source, no reflection. Just a tall, shadowy figure. We haven't gone exploring since then. We never posted the photos, and we didn't talk about Pinehaven with anyone for months. But once in a while, I still check that photo. And sometimes only, the reflection looks closer. In the small town of Millbrook, there's an old hospital called St. Agnes, abandoned since a fire destroyed most of the upper floors back in 1998. Locals say the place has been silent ever since, except for the lights. For years, people driving past at night have reported seeing flickering lights in the shattered windows of the burned-out wing. Some say it's just electrical glitches or cars' headlights reflecting on broken glass. But for Tom, a night security guard hired in 2021, the story became very real. Tom was new to the town and took the job mostly for extra cash. His shifts were quiet, too quiet. On his third night, just past midnight, he was making his rounds near the east wing when he noticed a faint glow coming from a window several floors up. The floor that burned in the fire. Curious, he walked around the building to get a closer look. The window was broken, jagged edges framing the flickering orange light inside. But when Tom looked inside, he didn't see flames or fire. Just a shadowy figure standing silently. He called out, but there was no response. Tom's heart raced. He pulled out his phone to call for help, but the signal was dead. Suddenly, the figure vanished. The light flickered once more, then went completely dark. When morning came, Tom found scorch marks near the window's frame. Fresh, but no fire had burned anything else. He quit the job the next day. Locals say the hospital is still haunted by the fire's victims, some patients who never made it out. And if you drive by St. Agnes at night, maybe you'll see the flickering lights too.